Sales are right back to being really slow, so if you want to hear about some returns, some lowball offers, and just some old inventory that I was letting go of for barely anything, then stay tuned. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller. When I'm not reselling, I am teaching choir to high school kids. It's very fun, actually. I'm also the mother of 2 very busy and active children. And when I'm not doing things related to those parts of who I am reselling. I am finding clothes at local consignment stores, Plato's Closet, thrift stores, garage sales, all the places I can for as cheap as I can. And then I am selling those things online for as much as I can, or at least as much as people are willing to give me. And lately they're not willing to give me very much money for those things because I cannot tell you just how many lowball offers I have been getting lately. And not just I have something listed for $50 and they send me like a $35 offer. I'm talking these people are audacious, they have no shame in how low some of their offers are. It is pretty wild. Let me know down in the comments if you have been experiencing that as well. It's like people just want us to lose money on each of these sales, and it's pretty crazy. And I would say hold your ground. At some point, I think that we are really truly going to have many things that other people want that perhaps people cannot find in other places. So hold your ground for the price that you want. Obviously, if it's something that really isn't worth that much, don't hold your ground, for a $50 sale on something that actually should only sell for 10. But if you know you have something of value, wait for the person who is going to come and buy it for what it's worth, unless, like me, you've had some of these things for a very long time. So let's jump right into it. We're gonna start by talking about a sale that I had on April 13th, and we are talking about the week of the 13th through the 19th. And so April 13th was actually a Sunday, which normally my what sold videos span like a Monday through Sunday, so just one entire week. I'm only including one sale from the 13th, which was a Sunday, and that's because I didn't include this sale in last week's what sold video for some reason. So it was this pair of Skechers slip-ins Virtue taupe wide fit cooled memory foam shoes in a women's size 11. So last week I had also sold a pair of Skechers, I think also in a size 11, because I think that I picked them both up at the same time at a local consignment store during an 80% off clearance sale. It was their Black Friday sale. And I think that both pairs of Skechers had belonged to the same consignor. So I had $3 into these shoes. They sold for $34.99 on eBay, which was my full asking price. And so my net profit was $27.13. And that was a good sale. That sold for my full asking price. $35 for a pair of Skechers? Nice. Yes, please. And I think it helped that these were a little bit bigger of a size that is harder for people to find traditionally because there just aren't very many of that size made in the first place. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer for that size to sell because there aren't as many people who wear that size, but those people just have a harder time finding shoes in their size in general. So moving into the actual week of sales that we were going to talk about in this what sold video, the 14th, which was a Monday. On eBay, I sold this Baby Gap factory plaid lightweight button-up shirt in a size infant 18 to 24 months. So why did I even go about listing this? It was Baby Gap factory. That's the outlet store. I listed this years ago, okay? It was something that my son had worn. It sold for $7.99, which is actually pretty good for something like this. Obviously, I'm saying I didn't have anything into it. It was probably either gifted to us or I got it really cheap at a local kids consignment store. But because he wore it, I'm saying we didn't have anything into it. And my net profit on that was $5.64. Not too shabby for a boy's button-up shirt, but also was it worth the time and energy it took to list that item? And given how long I had to hold on to the item, that's debatable. But also on the 14th, I had a return, and I think it's sitting in my P.O. box right now. I need to make a mental note to go tomorrow to get it and check it over so that I can issue the return. But I wanted to talk about the sale anyway, just so you know that I also deal with returns and you know why I got the return. It wasn't anything I could help, but it was this pair of soft surroundings ivory Metro leggings. They were legging pants in a women's size small. They had buttons on them and they were a pull-on pant. I don't remember how much those sold for. I didn't even include it in this because it doesn't matter. But the person wanted to return them because they said that they just hated how they fit and that they were too stiff. That's not anything that I have any control over, but that's what happens, especially on eBay, because really buyers are allowed to return things on eBay for whatever reason. And sometimes people are just straight up honest and they're like, I just didn't like it. And eBay's like, okay, you can return it. Sometimes they lie for some strange reason, but I think this person was honest. She was just like, yeah, they don't fit well and they're really stiff. So it's sitting in my PO box for me. I will list it again, see if I can sell it. I will probably have a hard time because I had those listed for a long time. Probably not something that I needed to purchase to resell, so now I know. But also on the 14th on Poshmark, I sold this new to me brand. The brand is Perfect White Tee, and it's all one word. It's those 3 words like smashed together, and it was this gray Harley lightweight cotton boxy crew tee in a women's size extra small. I saw this at a local consignment store. I don't know if you remember, I talked about how I went to this particular consignment store with my mother-in-law and my mom, and they basically let me shop like anything that was older inventory and stuff from their sales section by throwing items in a big black bag, like, you know, like the big garbage bags that you put in like big trash cans. And for every bag that I filled, they would charge me $50, which was great. My average cost of goods on those items was $3.13. And I remember I was going through the sales stuff and I came across this super basic gray t-shirt. Literally nothing special about it. I had never heard of the brand Perfect White Tee, so I looked it up and was kind of shocked at how well these pieces could do in the resale market. So, you know, knowing I wasn't going to pay very much money, I went ahead and purchased it for $3.13. It sold on Poshmark for $25. I got an offer. I think I had it listed for $35, which it's crazy that I could even list this for that much. But I got a $25 offer and I was like, it is a basic gray t-shirt. Yes, you can have it for $25. And it had only been listed for 3 days and it sold that fast. So I was like, yeah, I don't want to wait around for another person to show interest in a basic gray t-shirt. You can have this for $25. So my net profit on that was $16.87. Now, I did look up a little bit of information regarding this brand. It is made in the USA. And they just make very like basic pieces, very like minimalist capsule wardrobe, but very casual pieces. Not really anything you would wear to the office. A lot of times when I think capsule wardrobe, I think of like pieces that you would wear to the office and you just have like 10 pieces that you can intermix and you can come up with all these great outfits. This is more like a capsule wardrobe for someone who lives in t-shirts and jeans. Yeah, I don't know, like it seems to have a pretty decent following. You can sell very basic t-shirts for $25. I would say it's a decent bolo, especially if you can pick it up for cheap. And I do think that this is the type of brand that a lot of thrift stores wouldn't mark up because they are just so unassuming. There is just nothing surface level that looks very special about them. So Perfect White Tee, add it to your list. And then the next day of sales, which was April 15th, which was a Tuesday, on Depop, I sold this dress by the brand Beulah. Am I saying that right? I don't know. Beulah Style is what it said on the tag. And it was this white off-the-shoulder ruffle sleeve fit and flare. I put dress. Like the shortest dress to ever exist on the face of the planet, like barely covering booty cheeks. Like there are booty cheeks hanging out the bottom for sure. Like you can see a little cheek on this. So I remember sitting there debating like, is this a dress or a tunic? But there was just no way that this was meant to be a tunic. So I put dress. Yeah, it was in a women's size small. I picked that up at a Goodwill in a town about an hour and a half away when my students were in rehearsal for district choir. I don't know, I just remember seeing it in the dress section and being like, it's kind of cute, right? And like comps for this brand were like, okay, but it's been like 2 years and it sold for $25. I had $7.99 into it, so my net profit on that was only $8.72. Would I pick up the shortest dress of all time again? No, I would not pick this up again if I came across it in the future. So you live and you learn. On the 16th of April, which was a Wednesday, on Poshmark, I sold this Free People, We the Free Cecilia Coquette long sleeve top. It was in this like peachy pink color, and it was in a women's size medium. I got that at a clothes mentor in January of 2024. So I've had this for quite some time. Now, to be honest, I actually got this for myself, but when I was shopping at that clothes mentor, it was during this like really crazy, I think it was like a 90% off sale or 80% off sale, something like that. And I was not wanting to take any time to try stuff on. Anything that I was like remotely interested in, I just went ahead and bought it. And if I didn't like the way that it fit on me, which honestly like 70% of the items that I purchased for myself, I ended up selling because I just didn't like how those items looked on me. I didn't want to take the time to try them on in the store. So I purchased a bunch of things, listed some, kept a few. This was one that I tried on and was like, yeah, this one is not for me. But it sold on Poshmark for $21. I had $2.80 into that, and I made a net profit of $14. Now, when I think of the word coquette, that is an aesthetic, like a fashion aesthetic. It's the way that people like to dress. It reminds me of like anime. It's if Hello Kitty were a person, like how they would dress. It's a lot of pinks. It's very cutesy. There's lots of bows. There's lots of like that kind of stuff. And for a while, it was really hard for me to figure out what that aesthetic was. But this year, I had a girl join one of my choir classes. She's a sophomore, but this was her first time doing choir with me. And she is basically the epitome of that coquette girl. Like, she's got these cute little glasses. Like, her face and hair look very anime-ish. Just the way that she, like, styles everything. And then, yeah, every day she comes with, like, little jumpers that are normally, like, pink or, I don't know. They have, like, little ruffles and hearts and like little flowers, and there's ruffles and there's bows. Like, she is the epitome of coquette. Like, she's got the lacy socks with like Mary Jane's. So now I feel like I know what the look is, and whenever I look at something and I'm like, would Haley wear it? Okay, if Haley would wear it, I know to put coquette in the listing title and description. And that's what I did here. And I like to think that because of that, just a little over a year later, this finally sold. But moving on to the 17th of April, which was a Thursday. This was probably my biggest sales day of the week. On Poshmark, I sold this pair of, I lied, let me start with the Depop sale. On Depop, I sold this pair of Stuart Weitzman black slingback micro stretch heels, or like, they were like heel sandals, in a women's size 7.5 quadruple A, which means like super, 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 super narrow. Like, they were very narrow shoes. These shoes I picked up at a local Goodwill for $4.35. And I actually picked these up in this video right here, where I go through how to resell from beginning to end. And I started by going to my local Goodwill, buying some items to resell, and this was one of them. And then throughout the video, I share like how I photograph the items and how I list the items and how I ship the items and things like that. I remember even in that video being like, I feel like these are gonna take a long time to sell because they are a like quadruple A narrow shoe. Like, they're very narrow. They did sell finally on Depop for $35. I think I had them listed for like $50, but that was also with me paying for shipping. And my net profit ended up being $18.62. Now, this was my very first time on Depop where I had the experience of the buyer wanting to return the item. And the reason she wanted to return the item was because she said they didn't fit. She said, I am always a 7.5, but these fit more like a 5, so I want to return them. And I think the reason she stated from the drop-down menu was item not as described or something like that. Now, Depop is a little frustrating to list on because they only accept 8 photos. And Depop is very strict when it comes to stock photos. So oftentimes if I have a listing that has stock photos, I'll like delete the stock photos as I'm cross-listing to Depop from List Perfectly. But when you delete them, you have like, the empty spot for a picture at the end, and then I have to like save a different picture from whatever. So a lot of times, especially if I've taken many pictures of an item, I'm not able to fit all of the pictures that I want into a Depop listing. And what happened here was I wasn't able to include the picture that showed the size of the shoe. I did put in the listing title the size, which was 7.5 AAA, and I put in the listing description something along the lines of, these are super narrow shoes because of the fact that they are a 7.5 AAA. So what she said though, in her little explanation for why she wanted to return the shoes, was she said, it doesn't even show the size anywhere on the shoe, which is a lie because I had a picture of the size on the shoe. I just didn't have that in the listing. So when someone opens a return request on Depop, you as the seller have an opportunity to tell Depop kind of your side of the story. Like, do you agree with what the buyer is saying? And I said, no ma'am, like I do not agree, because even though the picture is not shown in the listing, I have a picture of the size, and this picture shows that it says 7.5 quadruple A, just like I said in the listing title and just as is stated in the listing description. Depop literally responded to me within like an hour, and they were like, yep, like you do not have to worry, like we're not gonna let this person return the item, we have released your funds, you're good to go, thank you very much. And I was like, okay Depop, like I am here for it. Like I definitely appreciate the backing of the seller, because I had receipts, I just didn't show them in the listing because I didn't have the space to. But again, I think what covered my butt was the fact that I had it in the listing title, I had it in the description. So that was a very pleasant experience that I had with Depop. So although the person wasn't super happy with those shoes, I feel like I did everything right on my end as far as making sure to state all of the things, and Depop sided with me. So yay for me, not so much for the buyer. So, but also on the 17th on Poshmark, I sold this pair of Citizens of Humanity black low-rise skinny jeans in a women's size 25. Okay, like there's so much wrong with this listing. They're skinny jeans, they're in a smaller size, they're probably mid-rise. Citizens of Humanity, it's a good brand, but like nobody really cares about it that much anymore. Somehow I still sold these for $25. I had $3 into them from a reseller buyout that I did in 2023. So I've had these for a while, and they did sell once before and were returned to me. So this was a relist, but they sold, they accepted the package. I think I got 5 stars on it. Praise the good Lord Jesus. So my net profit on those jeans, it was $17. Just took, almost 2 years. I sold this J. Crew navy wrap tie jumpsuit. It was made of like a stretch poplin in a women's size 6. It had an elastic waist, and I put the word classy in the listing title. That sold for $30. I had $3 into it, and so my net profit was $21. And it was something that I got earlier this year in March. I haven't really had it for a long time. It was part of a $3 tag sale. I got it at a local consignment store, and it sold in 8 days. And there were like weird stains on the exterior that I didn't notice until I got it home, like weird white stains. And of course I took pictures of the stains. I wrote about the stains in the listing description. And even with that, I was able to sell that for $30. So that was pretty great. And the fact that it sold so fast was pretty great. And I was happy with that profit. The last sale of that day was this pair of Marmot Lobo, I think that was the style name, tan nylon lined activewear outdoor hiking pants in a women's size 10. Those actually sold for my full asking price of $24.99. I had $3 into them from a local consignment store, and they earned me a net profit of $18.72. Marmot is not a brand that I pick up very often. I don't know. I feel like it's just not as loved as like a Patagonia or even a North Face, but I don't know, $3, I was like, sure, I'll just get it. And they did pretty well. I was pretty pleased with that sale. Moving on to the 18th, on Poshmark, I finally sold this new with tags Levi's standard fit blue striped short sleeve button up shirt in a men's size small. I got this through Reseller Supply Co. They are a wholesaler that resellers can turn to buy new with tags inventory. And they sell really great brands like Levi's, Wranglers. They have a lot of J. Crew. They have Madewell. They have Nike, Adidas, like really good brands. You're not getting like random garbage stuff. And they sent me a few boxes for me to unbox on my channel, which you can check out here, or I will have them listed in the description below so you can see what kind of stuff you might get. This was one of the items, and they sent me 2 identical shirts. Maybe they were in different sizes, I can't remember. The first one sold a while ago. This particular shirt had so much interest, and actually, like, it sold multiple times on Depop. But the thing that drives me crazy about Depop is that a lot of times people will send you offers and they will not follow through with actually purchasing the item. It's kind of like eBay, where like you can send an offer, but it's not connected to your credit card at that moment. So it's not like an instant, hey, you made the sale. You have to wait for the person to come back around and actually choose to pay for the item. I've heard a lot of people say in the comments whenever I talk about this on Depop, you know, people will say, I really just look at offers as the equivalent of like likes on Poshmark, which drives me crazy. My brain just is not conditioned to believe that, because on Poshmark, if someone sends you an offer, when you hit accept, it's a cha-ching, like you have made that sale. Not so with Depop. I've had a minimum of 3 people purchase this item from me on Depop, but never pay. So finally, for it to sell on Poshmark for $17, I was very happy about that. I didn't have anything into it, so my net profit was $13.60. Also on the 18th on Poshmark, I sold this pair of H&M pull-on striped linen blend waist tie shorts in a youth girls size 7. They were like pastel colored stripes. This sold for $8, which is honestly, I guess, like a decent amount for something like this. My net profit was $5.05, and that was something that my daughter had worn, and something that my daughter actually took photographs of for me. She really wanted to sell through her old clothes to try and earn some money, and she's probably earned like, I don't know, like $30, $40. The truth is, like, we just don't get her stuff that resells for a lot. Like, we're not spending a lot of money on our kids' clothing, mainly because they wear them for one season and then they're done. And also the majority of their clothes, I'm talking 90% of the clothes that both of my children wear, are thrifted. So a lot of times they're already a little bit worn, and then by the time they're done with them, like, they're just, you know. So it's not like she had a lot of great stuff to take pictures of. Like, she was trying to take pictures of like shirts that she had tie-dyed herself, and I was like, girl, like, nobody wants your old gymnastics t-shirt that you tie-dyed at home. Like, do not take pictures of this. This is Goodwill worthy, if even that, right? So yeah, she's made probably like a total of $30. But you know, you teach them young how to work for their money. And then the last day of sales that we'll talk about is Saturday, April 19th, because on Easter, I didn't have any sales. Jesus was risen, but no sales for me. So on the 19th on Poshmark, I sold this new with tags Ryan Wythe, is that how you say that? I'm not quite sure, but it was this black textured pencil skirt in a women's size 16W. I did put words like career and office in the listing title, and this is something that I got from a reseller buyout in June of 2023. When I tell you that it took me like a year and a half to get around to listing this because I just was so unexcited about it. It's a basic black skirt, right? But it did finally sell for $13. I had $3 into it. My net profit was $7.05. Also on the 19th, and the last sale of the week, was over on eBay. I sold this pair of Nike Golf dry fit cream athletic cropped pants in a women's size 12. They sold for $20. That was an offer that I got, which I don't know. I guess that's like maybe on par with how much these things can go for. I think you can get a little bit more for them, generally speaking, especially in a size 12, but I was like, I just need to sell things. I just need to get things out of this house. I got those in December of 2023, so it's been a while. And I got them from a local consignment store for $3 during a $3 tag sale, and my net profit was $14.64. So let's go through my numbers for the week, shall we? On eBay, I sold 4 items for a gross sales amount of $116.63. I had $9 into those 4 items, and so my net profit was $66.13. On Depop, I sold 2 items, which is kind of a lot for me on Depop in 1 week, and that was for a gross sales amount of $60. I had $12.34 into those 2 items, and my net profit was $27.34. I sold 7 items on Poshmark for a gross sales amount of $139. I had $14.93 into those items, and my net profit was $94.57. So in total, I sold 13 items for a gross sales amount of $315.63. I had $36.27 into those items, and my net profit for the week was $188.04, which is not what we're aiming for. We are aiming for a minimum of $350 in a week, and we weren't really even close to that. And it's because everything that sold was like $20 here, $13 here. I think like the highest price item that sold was $35. But then there were also things that sold for like $8 and $7. So, you know, it was just a lot of little things that sold, and not even a lot, 13 items to sell in 1 week. That's not really a lot. It was kind of disheartening. I feel like I had been listing decently. Like I think there were a couple days in that week that I didn't list, but yeah, I don't know. I was a little surprised. Nothing very exciting has sold. Not a lot of stuff has sold. I'm getting a lot of lowball offers. Yeah, and I mean, you know, at the very beginning of the video, I talked about how there were just so many like outrageously low offers. And I'm not really talking about any of them because obviously I didn't accept them. I think I always counter those offers, even if they're, again, just like insultingly low. 99% of the time I will counter them with something that I find to be more reasonable. Or if I want to be really passive aggressive, like I will counter with like $1 below my asking price. I would say 95% of the time, though, most of those people decline my counter because they really want that item for absolutely nothing. And so you might not have seen me talk about a lot of like lowball offers in my sales, but that's because I wasn't accepting those offers. And that's just a lot of what's been happening. Like I get excited because I'll get a notification saying that I got an offer on this platform or that platform, but the offer just never is for very much. And, you know, it's the prospect of like, oh, I think I made a sale. And then I'm like, I can't let go of that item for that little, because if I do, I'm losing money on this. So I don't know. It's been disheartening. Let me know down in the comments below how it's been for you, if you've been getting a lot of lowball offers as well. I've been seeing in comments in some of my most recent videos that that's the case for you, that you're getting a lot of lowball offers. The hope is that this will pass. Will that happen anytime soon? I don't know. I think a lot of people are tightening their purse strings, if anyone still uses that expression. It's a weird time financially, so we'll see what happens. But my hope is that you are faring much better than I am, and regardless, we're in this together at least. Like at least if both getting crazy lowball offers, like we get to go through it together. So I'm glad to have you by my side during this time. So that is it for today's video. If you believe that misery loves company, go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.